Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to give it just a second here while we get everybody logging in and joining up. Um, my name is Ty, and I'm here at the Harvard Federal Credit Union. We're going to be leading today's presentation. We're very happy to have you all here with us today. Um, Before we get started, we have just a little bit of bookkeeping stuff to kind of go over in terms of like how today's presentation is going to work, a little information about the credit union, as well as I believe our partner, Wendy, is going to want to talk a little bit about the workforce development team over at Boston Children's and give a little bit more context to that. But thank you all so much for joining us. Um, One thing I did want to say is that I know we have a lot of people joining us today virtually. There is also a live in-person presentation going on right now. The same thing, our same team is running it. That's happening over at the Folkman Auditorium. So there's actually we also brought cookies and fruit and some other like snacks. So just in case you have the capacity and you want to run over there and get like the live version and grab some snacks, please feel free to do so. We are very happy to be able to provide you a couple different mediums here today for our presentation. But I see Wendy has joined us. Wendy, do you want to maybe, I know you mentioned you wanted to talk ahead of time. If you want to hop on.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. I am Wendy Mateo Arias, Workforce Development Specialist Senior for Workforce Development and Internal Mobility here in the Human Resources Program at Children. And I'm just joining to say thank you and just talk a little bit about our partnership with Harvard Federal Credit Union. We have partnered for over a year now, and this is one of the initiatives from the benefits team on trying to coordinate on the well-being for Boston Children's and these employees for the benefits side, just really focusing on the financial well-being program to try to give a little bit more than just focusing on what we have here at the hospital and we offer in terms of benefits, but also focusing on things outside of our daily life that can contribute to our lives, like our great partnership. So we provide quarterly webinars focused on the different financial areas of our lives, and I hope that you are able to join all of the ones that interest you. We have also recorded all of the ones that we have done before. So later I will be able to send you that information as well as when we have this one on so that you can learn how the different topics that we have provided and also how the credit union can help you on setting up your financial goals with the support that they have and also the great offerings that they have if you join as a partner. I am a member, I can say, and it's so many things that they do. So I really love the Harvard Federal Credit Union and all of the things that they do. So thank you, Jen, for providing this and I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. It's our pleasure. So, Ty, take
Yeah,
it.
thanks, Wendy. Thanks for being a member. Awesome. So let's jump in. Okay, so today's presentation, we're going to be talking about improving your money habits. So this is kind of just like a general topic where we're going to talk a lot about all of the different ways you can sort of improve your spending, your saving, your budgeting, a lot of different money habits. Like you'd think sometimes that there's all of these like really complex concepts when it comes to finances. But just finding ways to improve across the board is like a very helpful thing. So we're going to just talk about kind of across the board, a lot of different things you can do to help improve your habits. So, but before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about our team and the credit union. So thank you, Wendy, so much for talking about the benefits that you guys have. One of those benefits is being able to join the credit union. The credit union, this is our team here. We're the community engagement team over at the credit union. My name is Ty Robinson, and with me today is our boss, Jen. And then Terrence is actually the one that's leading the in-person presentation over at Folkman Auditorium. So just in case anybody has some time or if they want to run over, if they're nearby and grab some of those snacks, we did bring snacks. We have we're doing two at the same time presentation today. So just in case you didn't know. But let's talk a little bit about the credit union. So as Wendy so obviously, awesomely said, one of the benefits you guys have being a partner with the credit union over at the hospital is that you're eligible to join the credit union. So what Jen, if we can go to the next slide, thank you. All right, so the credit union is a not-for-profit banking institution. So a lot of times, a lot of questions we get all the time is, what's the difference between a bank and a credit union? Well, the main difference is that credit unions are not for profit. All like the big banks are privately owned, and so they have shareholders that they're trying to earn money for and make money in that way. Not for profit means that the profits we do make, we actually give back to our community and to our members, and we do that in a lot of different ways. So we're very community focused. Our whole team here is the community engagement team. Our role is to get out there in the community, find ways to give back, lead these financial webinars and in-person series doing education and just making sure we help people learn about the complex world of finances and money and all this stuff. So you guys are all eligible to join the credit union if you want to. Once you do join, you're a member for life. So you can always, go and open an account somewhere else and leave, but you can always come back. And the benefit it also extends to your family. So just wanted to really get that out there, making sure people know that they are able to join us. You can always come and go as you please and open those doors to members of your family as well. I mentioned that we give back a lot of the profit that we make. We do that through waiving fees. We do that through having good interest rates on a lot of different like loan and lending products. One of the great things we do is we actually waive ATM fees. So if you have an account with us and you need to use your debit card at an ATM that's going to charge you a fee, whether that's through a private ATM or another bank or something like that, you will actually just refund that fee back into your account for you. So you can feel the freedom to be able to use any ATM that you want to. And that's just one little way that we take the profit we make and give back to our members and our community and make things convenient and easy for you. We want to make sure things are really straightforward and really convenient. And another way that we do that is because being a smaller credit union, we don't have nearly as many branches as, say, like Bank of America or something like that, of course. But we do have other ways that we try to make up for that. So one of those is the waiving of the ATM fee. Another one is that we're actually partnered with a lot of other credit unions across the whole country, where you can go into a branch for a different credit union and actually access your accounts at our credit union, because we do shared branching, as well as we have a full suite of our mobile app has like a full suite of different services on there that you can do, as well as our online banking. So we really try to go out of our way to keep things as convenient as possible for all of our members. And I would definitely recommend taking a look into it. We love to help, and we'd always be happy to answer questions. But that's enough talking about who we are. Let's get into the actual content for today's presentation. So today for Zoom, we're going to be using the webinar mode. This means everybody's automatically muted and their cameras are automatically off. So please feel free to have your lunch, have a snack, kick back, relax. You don't have to worry about muting your camera, coming on, anything like that. But this also means that we want to use the Q&A feature for today's presentation rather than the chat. If you guys have questions, we love questions. We always encourage questions because we want to help, and we want to make sure that we're helping with actual things that people are interested in. So when possible, if you have questions, pop them in the Q&A. In fact, it would be great if you could all maybe try to test it out right now and just let us know if you're a member or not. To make sure that the QA is working, we want to make sure that everybody has access to be able to ask us questions. We are also recording this presentation so that you can access it later. Wendy was awesome and mentioned that all of the different presentations we do, we have recordings available for them. Those are going to all be available for free on our YouTube page. If you just go to YouTube and you search, Harvard FCU, you're going to find our YouTube page. We have hundreds of webinars on there that we've done, doing deep dives in all sorts of different concepts, as well as this one will be uploaded on there as well. So if you want to follow back up and rewatch the presentation to get a little bit more info, you can always do that. So the last thing I want to mention is that we do love feedback. We're always trying to make sure that we're improving with these things. Jen and I, our whole team, actually reads every specific survey that we get filled out about our presentation content. So there's going to be a link at the end of today's presentation, as well as an email that follows up with a link to a survey, brief survey you can take about how we're doing with our presentations, and if you wish that we could change or improve on anything, because we're always looking to find ways to improve. So thank you so much. All right, that was a lot of bookkeeping, but it's done. So let's talk about money habits. First thing is another resource that's available to you is through our website. We have a whole portal of online educational tools that you can use, including free financial counseling for your own individual situation. We have blogs and workshops available on there. We have calculators and worksheets. So there's like budgeting tools, there's calculators so you can calculate like rates, interest rates for things and how much you would have to pay over time, as well as a whole library of short videos and other online educational topics you can take about all sorts of different topics. That's a completely free resource, whether you are or are not a member currently. That's all on their website. Jen, I believe, is going to drop a link to that in the chat. But it's Harvard HCU, Harvard FCU, excuse me, .org/thrive. Okay, so money habits. We have a partnership with GreenPath. GreenPath is another nonprofit where we work with them. They provide free financial counseling. So if you're wondering how to apply some of these concepts to your own situation and you really want some extra help with that, follow up with GreenPath. We're going to provide a link with them and talk a little bit more about them at the end of the presentation. So let's talk about money habits. The first thing we like to talk about when it comes to money habits is behavioral economics. So this is how our sort of predetermined psychology and how our mind works affects how we think about money and how much risk we take, as well as our savings and spending habits. There's actually 4 different money personalities, and we're going to do a little bit of an interactive exercise here now. If we could go to the next slide there, Jen, when you get a chance. But we're going to have, there's a quiz you can take. Yes, right here, the money personality quiz. If you'd like to I would like to encourage everyone right now to just scan this barcode. And that's going to bring you to a very brief little quiz. It's about 8 questions or so, and it's just going to ask you sort of how you think about money. And just answer the questions as honestly as you can. Thank you also, Jen, for providing a link in the chat now directly. If the QR code's not working for you, you can just click on that link there. And this is going to help you determine your money personality. This is how we are all sort of predetermined to think about our finances and our money when we and how we behave when it comes to our money. I will warn you all ahead of time. All of them sound a little bit not necessarily negative, but a little bit like calling you out. They're like, if we want to go to the next slide, Jen, the 4 different types of money personalities are money avoidance, where you tend to ignore your finances a little bit, or you don't like to think about it. You don't like to look at your bank account. We got money worship, where you believe just like making more money is going to solve all your problems. Money status, where you equate like your own self-worth and how like your current status to how much money you have or how much money you have bringing in. And then money vigilant, which is sort of frugal and focused on savings. Now, a lot of these sound like they can be sort of negative things, but really this is just a way to kind of make sure that we're figuring out how we subconsciously think about our finances and ways we can either help use that to create good habits or get over some of our more negative predetermined habits. So I'm going to give it a second while people are maybe still filling out some of those questions there. But Jen, did you want to chime
Do
in?
you want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we have seen these behaviors in our?
Oh, yeah, of course.
in our
I was
own
going to
life?
get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I myself personally score highest on money avoidant and money vigilant, which turns out is like not that uncommon, which is weird because it does sound very contradictory, where it's like I ignore my finances, I don't like to look at my bank accounts, but also I'm very focused on saving well. And so it creates like a strange sort of loop when it comes to how and when I have to sort of like focus on taking care of my like my online banking and stuff like that.
Yep.
Did you
And
want
I
to chime
have,
in, Jen?
as we've talked about before, I have some of the
Yeah.
same stuff, but I also, there have been times when I felt some of that money status where, I felt, oh, I really should, maybe I had 2 job offers and one really spoke to me more and was something I could live on, but the other one seemed to have much more status, more money associated with it. Um, and
Mhm.
it can be hard. Like sometimes I think that we do tie up our net worth to our self-worth. That's pretty common. Similarly, this belief that money
Yeah.
will solve all our problems. Like I think I've had that feeling like, oh, you you think, well, then just having more money coming in is going to change everything. But as we're going to talk about, I guess, as we go along, there's other money habits that are really important in addition to, raising your income can help sometimes when you're in a difficult situation, but you also have to do the other things to make sure that you're living within your means and paying yourself first and all the good things we're going to talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like, for example, like money vigilant, right? Like it sounds really good. You're focused on savings and this and that. But when you're extra money vigilant, it can mean that you don't like to spend money on anything, like you don't go on trips, you
Yep. You
miss
might
out on
turn down
experiences
really
like
important
going out with friends
opportunities.
or
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there's just things to be aware of. And that's why we really like to make sure we encourage everybody to take the quiz, is just so you can start thinking about your own personality and how it is kind of impacting your life, and maybe how you can improve some of those habits in order to either better make use of your personality or find ways to break some of that if you need to make a change.
For sure.
All right. So we're going to talk about and relate to how to maximize that, how to improve on some of those habits, or how to make use of some of the good habits you have based on some of those things as well. All right. So the very first thing that we want to do is write down what our financial goal is. This can be anything. It kind of is up to you, but we're going to use an example today, and we're going to talk about that and relate a lot of our habits that we learn to how to make use of that goal. Writing down something is a great way to actually get it out there in the world. It's so easy to think about how you want to improve or think about what your goal is, but to actually like hold yourself accountable for it, it's really helpful to physically write something down. I know my own personal goal is right now I am saving for my honeymoon, which is a trip I want to take to Japan next spring. So for an example that we can talk about money habits today, we're going to say that our goal is to save $3,000 by next spring. And then we're going to talk a lot about different habits I can take to help improve that so that I can go on my honeymoon, which I'm very excited to. And writing that down and putting it out there is a really helpful way to make sure that I'm thinking about it and using my my money personality to help make sure that I can save for that goal. So I would like to encourage all of you right now to, if you can, write down what your goal is going to be, whether that's on a little piece of scrap paper, on your phone, in like a little notepad or something, send an email to yourself, whatever it is. But just
You can
even if the
also
goal is
drop
like,
it in the Q&A if you want. If you want
that's
to
true,
tell us
that's
what
true.
your goal is,
Yeah,
declare
and
it
if
publicly.
anybody wants to, if anybody wants to share, we can also help a little bit talk specifically about how some of these different habits could help relate to that. So that's awesome. All right. Cool.
Okay,
All right,
thank
Jen.
you,
Well,
Ty.
no problem. I'll let you take it away from here.
So I'm gonna pick up a little bit from here to talking about, so now, maybe you took the quiz and you've learned, you'll see that it's not normally that you have one, you have different scores on all of them. So you might see that you're high in a couple, but you might have some of these scripts that many of us have from different times in our lives. So sorry about that. So now we're going to talk about, given what you learned about yourself, how you can improve some of your habits based on that. So there's a concept in behavioral economics known as pre-commitment. And that is just committing in advance to a particular course of action, or saying that how you're going to implement something on your goal. So going back to Ty's goal that he talked about earlier, he was saving for a trip for next spring. He wants to save $3,000. So an example of pre-commitment might be if he scheduled time with his fiance to this weekend to go over their budget, what they've already paid for, what they still need to pay for, and perhaps even then doing automated savings that are the amount so that they'll have it in time. And Ty, do you want to talk about how this really works in your life?
Yeah, sure. So, exactly, just like you said, it's really like pre-committing either time or money for the thing that you want to do. So on here, we can see that it says use the cash / envelope method. This is sort of a kind of an old, outdated version of saving money and pre-committing funds, which was when you get your paycheck in, you take that paycheck, you get all the cash, you get little envelopes and you write down all of the different things you need to use cash for on those envelopes. So for example, it might be, rent, it could be bills, it could be savings. One of those envelopes might say honeymoon trip, and then when I get paid, I separate out the cash into the envelopes into how much I can put aside or use or need to pay each of those bills and each of those things. So that way, when I need to go grocery shopping, I take the grocery envelope, I go to the grocery store, I take the cash out of there, and then when I run out of cash, I know that's all I have that I can spend on groceries because I've pre-committed those funds. Now, in our life and with planning for the honeymoon, we have used a bit of a more modern day version of this, which is when I get my paycheck in, I actually have a couple of extra different bank accounts on my online banking that I've opened up, a couple different extra checking accounts. I don't have debit cards for those accounts. They're just on my online, but they're places where I can put money and I can label that account kind of like an envelope. And so when the paycheck comes in, based on the pre-committed time we've talked about how we're going to save for this honeymoon, I get my paycheck and then I take the funds that I'm going to put aside in my savings for the honeymoon trip and I put them right into the account that I have online that's labeled honeymoon trip. So I've pre-committed those funds. I've taken them out as soon as I got them and put them somewhere else. So it's already labeled. It's already out there. I don't have to think about, oh, when am I going to do it? How much do I have for it? We've made a plan. We've pre-committed the time and we pre-committed the funds.
Nice. I see in the Q&A, someone has shared that their goal is paying off their primary mortgage loan. And I actually share this goal. My goal is that by the time I'm 63, that my mortgage will be fully paid off. And so I've taken the time to calculate out what I would have to do that. It's a little bit early for me, not a ton early. And so I'm making some extra payments that way. And for me, I'm all about auto pays. I really do much better if things are coming out automatically. You do need to be sure that you have sufficient funds if you're going to be doing auto pays. And so I have that set up for myself, that I kind of leave myself a cushion just in case there's something I forgot about or a little bill that's coming out. I don't want to be down to the wire in my checking. But I do auto pay my mortgage, and I love looking at that little calculator where it tells me that, it keeps moving the month up just slowly, that so that's a great goal, and particularly for those of us getting close to retirement, but just anyone who wants to do that, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I'll say auto pays are also very good for somebody who's more money avoidant because you don't have to go in there and do a manual payment online or write a check or whatever it is. If it's auto paying, you do need to make sure that you have enough money in that account, whichever account's going to do the auto payment. But you know that it's all going to be taken care of. You don't have to go on there. You can just you don't have to think about it, So that's another great tool you can use for if
Yeah.
that's one of your money personality types.
That's a great point. Yep. And for me, it's also an organizational thing. I guess money avoidance is also part of my profile. And just knowing that I don't have to worry. I have all my credit cards to auto pay the minimum at least. And that's an example of a way that I've just kind of simplified my life, knowing that I have some money avoidance. And then I do go in afterwards and try and pay the full balance. We'll talk about some of that later. But yeah, so I think that for me, auto pays work well, and you have to decide for your own money personality if that's a match for you. So another example of a thing that you can do, a money habit that you can develop that's actually good for several of the money personalities, is breaking things down into a goal gradient. You may have heard goal gradient if you're ever doing research, or a lot of writers use this, breaking down a goal into smaller goals. So for finances, if Ty has that goal of $3,000 for his trip, he might be doing a monthly auto pay of $250 to try to make sure he's there by the end of a year. This is actually an example for someone who's trying to build up a $10,000 emergency fund. And that can seem like, wow, that's just so much money. How are you ever going to get there? This suggests that you say, okay, in the first year, I'm going to save $3,000. How am I going to do that? By $250 a month. And slowly, you'll find yourself getting closer to your financial goals, having more comfort in both the freedom to make choices and knowing that you have emergency funds for when you need them, for whatever might come up in your life. So another thing that we've learned about from behavioral economics research is what's called planning fallacy. This is a big one for me. Planning fallacy is when you underestimate how long it's going to take you to complete a task. So if you think to yourself, oh, it'll be so easy to save that $3,000 for the trip, I can probably do that by setting aside extra, just these 4 months or something, and you don't realize that, oh no, you have a lot of other commitments too during that time, or you forgot about holiday spending or something like that. Um, so a big example of this is many of us have done the thing where you transfer money onto a zero balance card and you think this is going to be my chance to pay off my credit cards. For those of us who have carried debt on a credit card, it can be stressful, and sometimes we try different ways to pay it off. Those can be great offers. They typically are time limited, or almost always are time limited. So you get a 0% balance interest rate for a certain period of time on your balance. But if you don't pay it off, you will be paying interest. So if you're going to do one of those, you really need to take the time to calculate out, if I have a $5,000 balance with this company and I can transfer it somewhere else to another credit card and get a 0% interest rate for 1 year. And then there's usually a fee for the transfer, so you need to build that in too. So now I say, okay, so I need to pay off that $5,000 balance plus the maybe $50 fee or something. I need to set up $417 a month via automatic payments, and not make any additional charges on that account, on that card, if I want it to be paid off by the end of the year. So to set yourself up for success, you do need to take the time to do the math, to set up automatic monthly payments is always recommended. You can do this all manually. You can make a decision that you're just going to send a payment every time online. But you're probably going to be in a better situation if that's just something is going out every month. And don't add additional debt to the card. So this is something I've just learned about myself, that my just first thought about how long that's going to take, I should maybe double it in my mind for any kind of plans like this. And that way I set myself up for success, right? Um, so another thing that we've learned about from behavioral economics is an idea of decision paralysis. And the most common example of this would be something like when you open up Netflix and you're just like, oh, I know there are a lot of things I want to watch, but there's too many things in my face and I can't remember, and I'm paralyzed by too many decisions. This can also happen, like you go to a new coffee shop and they have a lot of different other options or something, and you're like, I don't know what I want. Like, it's very complicated. So in your finances, decision paralysis can end up costing us. So one of the things the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which is a federal agency created for the protection of consumers, that they tell us is that in order to feel financial wellness, we need to have present security. So that's control in the present over your day-to-day finances. We need to have present freedom of choice. So you need to have some money that you can spend in the moment that is just budgeted for walking around money. That's what I call it, my budget, walking around money. So it's like, oh, I know I can, if I'm going into the office or something, I know I can spend this money, almost like my allowance. You need to have future security. So our participant Guerda was saying that, they want to pay off their mortgage. That's a future security thing, that they've made a decision that that's something important for them to feel secure in the future. It may be retirement savings for many of us. And then we also need future freedom of choice. So to know that we have some choices as we go into our future selves, that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. I sometimes say I'm doing a favor to future Jen. I'm doing something that is kind of a pain in the moment, but it's something that will help me in the future. And I later the time comes and I'm like, hey, thank you, Jen. Past Jen, you did a good job, Um, So, and decision paralysis goes well with the concept we talked about before, of pre-commitment. So a way out of decision paralysis is to take a baby step. So you have done a step today of attending a webinar on money habits. You could attend one or watch a YouTube on budgeting or investing. You could set up a meeting with GreenPath to do free financial counseling. We're going to give you that link in a little bit. So just a little step to help yourself, or maybe it's just that you're going to set aside time to set up some auto pays that makes sense for you. So I don't know, Ty, do you have an example of decision paralysis in your life that has happened?
Yeah, I mean, one that's like not necessarily related to finances, but like when it comes to trying to figure out where to eat, it's like there's a million different places. You don't know what you feel like, especially if you have a big group of people. And so it's like just being able to kind of focus in and focus on what you need to do and take a baby step, like you said, whether that is like what kind of savings products should I have if I'm trying to save this money? Like, do I need to do investing? Like, should I be in a savings account or a CD or something like that? Like, what's the best way? Is just making sure you're getting some research done, figuring out what's going to be the best for the timeline you have, and just making sure you know what kind of steps you need to take.
Yeah. And I think it's okay with finances. Finances can be pretty overwhelming, and sometimes you're really not sure what the best path is. So I think it's okay to, sometimes you might do like intermediate steps that just, again, get you one baby step closer. Like maybe you don't know if you're going to Japan for your honeymoon. Maybe you're like, we're still debating. We don't know. Well, you're still probably going to need money. So just taking the step of saving up, knowing that there's going to be somewhere, is a great step, and things that you can do to kind of help yourself break out of those are often going to be helpful to you in the long run. So
Yeah, and decision paralysis actually goes really well with pre-commitment, that other concept we talked
yep,
about,
yep,
where you can pre-commit time to attend a webinar like you're all doing today. So guess what? You're already on a pretty good track because you took some time out, you pre-committed some time to learn about these things and learn on how you can get some of the more feeling of present security and freedom of choice.
yep. um, Another concept that we learn about from behavioral economics is the idea of tunneling. Tunneling is a behavior where there's been an emergency or just something is in crisis. Just earlier last week, we had the stock market did a little turn up, down, and then went back up. But a lot of people react to these normal. So sometimes it's not even a real emergency. It's just a perceived emergency. But sometimes it's a real one. Maybe there's been a hurricane and the roof has been blown off your house. There is a tendency to just focus on the need at hand and maybe make poor decisions as a result. So say a contractor comes around, is knocking on your door and says they'll put your roof on, and you give them a deposit, but it turns out that's just a scammer. And there are people who will take advantage of emergencies. And in general, if someone is pressuring you, like you have to do something really fast, you have to buy this car right now, or you're going to lose it, or something like that, often they don't have your best financial interests at heart. So at the credit union, one of the things we try and do is just, really provide people information, and on your timeline, do what makes sense. You want to compare options, know your timeline, talk to someone you trust. So those are ways that you can avoid tunneling so that you don't get pushed or railroaded into something that isn't right for you. So we want to keep that in mind. Then we want to talk a little bit about mental accounting. So Ty already gave a great example of mental accounting where he has separate bank accounts named for different things. So for his trip, he has, honeymoon fund, and he knows therefore that that's really important money for a very important purpose. So Ty, how would you feel if you had to take money out of there, or you were, someone
Yeah,
suggested?
not not great. So the other benefit of naming my account honeymoon vacation fund, right, is that I put money in there. I know the money's in there. It's pre-committed, like we talked about. But then if I go to take money out of there, I'm not taking money out of savings account number one or savings account number, blah, blah, blah. I'm taking money directly out of my vacation, right? And so if I need to rearrange some money or figure out where my money needs to go, if I'm taking money from not just savings, but vacation, that feels worse. And so this is a trick you can do to mentally help establish a mental shortcut for like, oh, I'm not just taking money from savings for something. I'm taking money that I already pre-committed for something else. So having that label and helping you keep track of it mentally and hold yourself accountable for it actually is surprisingly how helpful it is when it comes to making sure that the money you've set aside is reserved for that purpose.
And mental accounting can also be the habit where you've created a mental shortcut so you don't have to, you have decision paralysis. You know that whenever you get unexpected money, in this case, maybe you're going to put it toward your honeymoon, but you know, you
Mhm.
might have a different, like there was a time in my life where I did have some credit card debt and I had the mental shortcut. Like if I got money sent to me as a gift or got a bigger tax return than I expected or anything like that, it went toward the highest interest credit card I had. And that was my decision. So I didn't have to like think it all through, and I didn't, use up the money, foolishly or feel like, oh, I had money to shop with. No, this was my goal. I wanted to make progress toward it. So another mental accounting thing that's been really helpful to me in my life is if I feel like I can live on my current salary and I get a raise, I have always put that into my retirement. So that's how I bumped up. I started when I first had a retirement account at work, and there was a match, and you all have a retirement, if you're working over a certain number of hours at Boston Children's Hospital, you have access to a retirement match from your employer. So if you put in $1, they'll put in $1 up to a certain amount. And so I started and I just did the match. And at that time at my job, it was 3%. They would match 3%. But still, it's good to put money in your retirement as much as you're able to in order to meet your retirement goals. And I wanted to do more, but I sort of felt like, well, that was all I could afford in the beginning. But then as I got raises, if if I wasn't struggling month to month to pay my bills and I got a raise or I got a bonus, I put that money into my retirement. So I just bumped it up. Then I was doing 4%, 5%. And that does start to add up over time. And it's been a really good way, for me over the course of my life to be like, oh, okay, this is how I can increase my retirement savings in a somewhat painless way. So that's another mental accounting trick that I often suggest to people to think about, and a very worthwhile one, I think. Yeah, so having names on your accounts, knowing what they're for, and having something with an emotional connection to it is great to know. Then some things also have, of course, there are kinds of funds, like I had a 529 for my daughter. Again, I know if I were ever taking money out of that, first of all, I'd pay a penalty because there are tax penalties for withdrawing for something other than qualified education. But also I would just feel really bad. I wouldn't want to take money from her college fund. So, I pre-committed. I decided that that's what I was putting in there. And so similar to your retirement as well. So. Another concept that comes up a lot for money, there's a lot of people who are trying to, get your money from you, right? The marketing people. And one of the ways that they do this is through this idea that you need to buy now because things are scarce. And whether that's like, oh, this car is not going to be available in this color anymore, or there's all kinds of ways that they make it seem like there's a shortage or something. We're running out of this purse. You're not going to be able to get it anymore. There's only one of these on eBay, and you better grab it or it will never become available again or something. I think we just need to be aware that they're trying to create this idea that you need to act now because it's their job to make you act and buy things. So you just need to know that, hey, they suggest here are some habits to adopt about, like, oh, I'm going to wait. I have a rule that I have to wait 24 hours with something in my shopping cart before I buy it. This is a great rule for me because I'm a person who puts something in my shopping cart and 100% forget about it. So I get the emails all the time from marketers like, hey, did you forget something? And I'm like, not really, because it was just sort of fun to put it in there. And then I realized I don't need this thing. And just, you may also want to unsubscribe from emails. I definitely do that a lot. I I don't like getting marketing emails, and I tend to be like, well, I know where you are. I can find you when I need you. Um, and there may be other habits that you have. Go ahead and put in the Q&A if you have some habits yourself for resisting being told to buy when that wasn't in your budget or that wasn't something that you were planning on doing. Okay, some people say that they say don't save their credit card on a website, and that can be a great way where you have to go physically get up and get it. Um, yeah, or they don't use Apple Pay. So that's another way that people might use to outsmart the marketing tactics. Those are great ideas. All right. So the what the heck effect. What the heck effect is when you think that because you made one mistake, even a big one, you made a mistake and then you lose motivation. You feel like, oh, I can never get there. The reality is when you're planning for your finances and learning about finances, there will be failures because, or there will be things where, oh, you realize later you would have done that differently, that kind of thing. In the idea of saving up for the vacation, maybe you thought, oh, you're going to save it all by March. And then you realize, you know what? I had this big, my car needed some repairs. I ended up not getting where I want to be by March. I've had that happen before when I'm planning a vacation. And sometimes I'm like, well, I'll put this thing on my credit card, but I'll be able to pay it off by April and I'm budgeting for that. So, I mean, you have to be ready to iterate and think, okay, if this didn't work out, then what's my next strategy to still get there? Because it may be that you just get there a little later. And similarly, same thing can happen with retirement. Maybe you're like, oh, I thought I was going to retire early, but now I'm realizing with 2 kids in college or this or that, maybe it's back to 65 or whatever, so it's not the end of the world to feel like, okay, I had some things didn't go exactly according to plan, but they're still going and I'm still going to be in a place where I am able to have a comfortable retirement. It may mean that I have to work another year and a half or something like that. We've mentioned several times GreenPath. So I think we're going to put into the chat here. GreenPath is our nonprofit partner. They are, so we are a not-for-profit financial institution. GreenPath is also a not-for-profit, nonprofit, and they offer free credit counseling, budget, debt, housing. Oh, it doesn't say here, but student loan repayment counseling as well. So if you're sitting here and you're saying, wow, I'd like to have a budget, but I don't even know how to start, you could watch one of our budgeting webinars. You could also make an appointment with GreenPath. They'll do a budget with you and help you figure out how to do that. So if you think that would be beneficial to you, if you have a lot of credit cards that you owe a lot of money to and you want some advice on that, you can get free credit counseling. If you're thinking about buying a home, maybe you want some housing counseling or even just moving in a rental situation, but you're like, how do I save up that last month's security deposit? GreenPath will do housing counseling with you, take a look at your credit with you, make sure you're in a good place for when you do want to get a mortgage or get checked out as a renter. So all those are great reasons to call GreenPath. And you do not need to be a member of the credit union to use this link. It is just available to you. If you go through the link, you're referred by us. That's all that you need. And the services are free. So please don't hesitate to take advantage of that. If you're in a situation, it can happen to any of us where debt is something that is really bothering you or weighing you down in your life. If you would like to improve your financial wellness but don't know how to start, please take advantage of GreenPath. They're here for you and just lovely people. They also have counselors who speak Spanish and some other languages as well. This is our just standard disclaimer. We are not tax experts. We're not lawyers. We're not giving investment advice here. You should always talk to an advisor about your specific situation. GreenPath, they are counselors who can give you information on those topics that I mentioned. But if you want tax or legal advice, you should be talking to your lawyer or to your accountant. But this is just general educational, and that's what we say on all of our webinars. Ty mentioned that we do love to get survey feedback from you if you are willing. So we just put in the chat the link to do a survey with us and tell us what we can improve. We would love to hear from you about what worked and what didn't for you in this. Some of you may be still knowing us mainly under our old name. We used to be, until June, Harvard University Employees Credit Union. We recently changed the name to Harvard Federal Credit Union. And so now we're Harvard FCU on everything. So harvardfcu.org, Harvard FCU on the social channels. So if you want to reach out to us, please do. Look for Harvard FCU and make the connection with us. You can follow us in all different places and get little reminders. Sometimes that's a good baby step. Like maybe you're just like, well, I'll just start following their Instagram. So it's going to come up in my feed and remind me. So if anybody has any questions, we are here to answer them. And if not, then definitely you will get these slides in your inbox because you registered for the webinar. And you'll also get a link to the YouTube recording. So if you want to watch it again, please grab any of the links that you want from the chat. And thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch hour and your busy day to join us for our webinar. We really appreciate you being part of this and doing this today to improve your financial health. So thank you, everybody, and have a great Monday.